They don't make games like they used to anymore. If that wasn't true, you wouldn't see so many remasters being made. I've gotten to the point where I don't even get excited for new games anymore. 9 times out of 10, I'm reaching for an older game or even a retro game. And it's not just me. So many people are buying older consoles and getting back into collecting games, and emulation has absolutely exploded in popularity. I've seen channels like Tech Dweeb, Aiden Walls, and Retro Games Core absolutely skyrocket over the past few years. I mean, think of it. When the Steam Deck released, it didn't become popular because it could run PC games. Everybody, including myself, rushed out and bought one because of its ability to play older games. And so far, 2024 has to be the best year I've ever had enjoying games. At the same time, this has to be the first year I've bought the fewest amount of new games. I honestly thought that the recent new indie game, Squirrel with a Gun, was the only new game I purchased this year. That's because I totally forgot about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I thought that came out late last year, but it actually came out in January, so 2 new games? And I don't plan on opening my wallet anytime soon. I mean, why should I? My backlog is the equivalent of a doomsday prepper's pantry. In other words, while the hate mob is searching high and low for the newest obese, purple-haired, androgynous, wheelchair-bound black person to complain about this week, I've been over here enjoying greener pastures. Going back and playing the games I missed out on has been the bulk of 2024 for me. Honestly, I feel like this is the year of the backlog. So it doesn't necessarily need to be retro games, it just happens to be the games I reach for the most. At the beginning of the year, I made a list, and every time I rolled credits on a game, I would add that game to the list. It's a lot, and I'll probably pin it to the comment section, but it made me realize just how many games I didn't get the chance to experience over the years. The God of War games for PSP, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and Chrono Trigger on my hacked 3DS before that horrific water bottle incident inside my backpack happened. I don't want to talk about it. That's just to name a few. Sure, I want to play newer games like Black Myth Wukong. As a fan of Dark Souls and Sekiro, this game seems right up my alley. But I still haven't beaten Dark Souls 2. I loved Fallen Order, and I wanted to eventually play Jedi Survivor. I bought Mortal Shell on sale for like $5, and I haven't even touched that one yet. And when I finally do have the time to get good again, I feel like Elden Ring's gonna be my first priority when it comes to clearing my backlog. Then when all those games are finished, I probably want to play Lies of P. Clearly, I can wait for Black Myth Wukong, and even then, I'm just having so much damn fun playing Metroid Zero Mission for the 40th time. I personally missed out on Metroid Prime 2 and 3, and I'm done waiting for remasters, Nintendo. I went back and played Luigi's Mansion 1 and 2, and I practically marathoned the Final Fantasy series in preparation for the 7 remakes because I'm just that type of person. I can't just hop into a series, I have to start from the beginning. Yes, I know they're all self-contained stories, and I don't care. This is like an OCD problem, okay? It doesn't matter if it's Super Nintendo, GBA, N64, GameCube, PlayStation 2, whatever. By the time you end up being ready to play a new game that you've been hyped for, it ends up being at a massive discount. I'm personally hyped for Sparking Zero. Huge Toonami vibes with that last trailer, but guess what? I've only played the Budokai series, so I'm pretty content saving my money in the meantime while I catch up. Now, I'm most likely in the minority, but for some reason I feel like realistic graphics are less immersive. For the longest time, I felt like it was because newer games were kinda style over substance, meaning they looked pretty, but the gameplay wasn't a focus during development. To some extent that's true, but the best way I can describe it is reading a book versus watching a movie. When you watch a movie, you can kind of turn your brain off and still be able to follow along. But when you read a book, you have to pay attention a lot more because you have to use your imagination to fill in the gaps that the words can't fully convey. Well, it's the same way when you play retro games versus modern games. So many retro games are memorable because they end up being so colorful and hyper-stylized. And in the case of pixel graphics, because they're not going for realism, your mind has to fill in the gaps. The same way with a book. It's the reason why so many Pokemon fans miss the 2D games. When I play a hyper-realistic game, everything kind of becomes this visual static, to the point where I don't even know what parts of the environment I can interact with. It's the reason why you see things like the infamous yellow paint splattered everywhere to help guide you. I also miss how easy games were to just pick up and play. It felt like you could just grab the controller and every button was dedicated to a certain action on screen. Easy to learn, but hard to master. I swear, when I played games like Red Dead 2 and Tears of the Kingdom, I was constantly fumbling through quick menus, and it didn't matter how many hours I had in the game. I just could not remember those stupid menus. And it just pisses me off when the control scheme feels like a goddamn Bop It toy, you know? Now, I'm no stranger to emulation. 10 years ago, I was playing Pokemon Emerald on my phone. I remember being completely blown away when I got Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai running more than 15 frames per second on my phone. Remembering those days and then seeing GTA 5 running natively on the Steam Deck, I absolutely have no words. When people tell me they're holding out on the Steam Deck because they're waiting for Valve to release a successor or they're waiting for the Nintendo Switch 2, I'm thinking, what are you on about? We don't even need a Steam Deck 2. And as far as Nintendo Switch, I mean, the Steam Deck runs more Nintendo games than any single Nintendo console. The Steam Deck is like if Nintendo brought GameCube games to Nintendo Switch Online. To me, that's worth a purchase by itself. I swear, Valve's got me out here acting like Jehovah's Witness. Like I've been enlightened. You don't even need to spend a lot of money either. For the price of a single AAA game, you can get one of Anbernic's handhelds and they come already preloaded with ROMs. Anbernic just released extra colorways for their RG35XX I think I'm saying that right, and I can't wait for my transparent red to come in the mail. I grew up with the Game Boy Advance alongside the GameCube, and I can see myself being preoccupied with this thing for hundreds of hours. I can't wait to replay Minish Cap with that cool-ass GBA filter with the SP banner. The biggest reason, and this is the most important one, why I seem to always go back to older games is just that they feel like they were made by people who love playing video games. When I play games like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, it feels like the devs genuinely came into work excited to do their jobs. By the way, if you haven't played this game yet, this is one of those games that'll put hair on your chest. The soundtrack is metal as hell, and you can use your katana to cut shit into millions of pieces. No nonsense, just straight into the action. I miss wandering off the beaten path and finding some obscure Easter egg, or being able to use cheat codes to completely break the game if I want. Whatever happened to games designed to be played for fun, rather than to be bought and consumed as a product? Microtransactions are now macrotransactions. Remasters prey on your nostalgia, and more often than not, they butcher the source material. Sometimes it even feels like companies hate us and don't want us playing their games. And when I see games like Dragon Quest III HD 2D, A game that I haven't stopped thinking about since that first teaser trailer, having the original artwork censored for the modern audience. I bet you know who that is. By principle, I cannot support this. We're talking about Akira Toriyama's original art. This is the man that made every single kid at some point in their lives want to be Goku when they grow up. I was in the backyard with my cousins back then having imaginary beam struggles. And when I found out about his passing, I literally had whole ass tears rolling down my face. People are quick to clap back and say people like me are chuds or whatever the hell they say these days. It seems like every time I turn around there's a new buzzword being circulated after the last one loses its meaning. At the end of the day, I just want to play video games that feel like it was made by people like us. The kids that grew up with controllers in their hands, who got yelled at for sitting too close to the TV and told that it'll ruin their eyes. The kids that were trading Pokemon during recess with their link cables. Yelling random slurs at each other in Halo 3 matchmaking lobbies. Seriously, how the hell did we get here? The good news is, though, I think the gaming industry is finally healing. Now, for the hardcore audience, we've been seeing this go on for a while now, but we're now at a point where even the casual audience notices all the 7 out of 10s and the fact that gaming journalists have been bought and paid for. They can see all the virtue signaling and political propaganda bullshit being shoved in their face, and people are sick of bloated ass time sinks and greedy companies trying to bleed them dry. People are fed up and they're finally voting with their wallets. And if that means companies like Ubisoft cease to exist, well,
get what you fucking deserve!
In the meantime, while the AAA space continues to fold in on itself, I know people like me will be perfectly fine clearing out our backlogs and playing some good old retro games.